Princess is behaving like it's broken again. In fact, it's behaving like it's blown the head gasket. It's also going through more oil than I'd like. First thing I'm going to do is a compression test. Got my first spark plug out. It looks a bit lean, maybe, but other than that, fairly normal. I've hooked up my little compression tester. I'm going to go through each cylinder at a time, and we'll see what results we get. At the moment I just want to see whether or not the head gasket has blown, and then when I've done this I'll go into why I think that's happened and some of the other weird thing that's been happening with this engine. It's a bit odd. I'm going to have to show you the results after they've got there. I can't actually set my camera up in a way that's stable while it's working. So this is cylinder 1, this is what the plug looks like. Cylinder 1 is the timing belt end of the engine, and it's about 145 on there. Cylinder 2, but this one comes with a caveat because it's quite difficult to get that screwed in there and get that to seal properly, so I'm going to come back and test this one probably. And cylinder 2 could be our culprit. That's only getting to 75. However, it is notoriously difficult to get that to screw into there properly because of the distributor. This is the plug from cylinder 2. Looks much the same as 1. Threads are a little bit oily towards the top, but that's normal because this leaks. And it always leaks because it's a rubbish design. Cylinder 3, that's a lot better. That's pretty much bang on 150. The plug's slightly different on 3. It looks a little bit damp for some reason, but other than that, it's okay. Here's the result on cylinder 4. It's at about 135, which could be better, could be worse. The plug out of this one looks much the same as all the others, so I don't see any running issues here. It might be running just a bit lean. I'm not sure. I'm going to go back and redo this one, see if I can get the best seal I can, because I'm not convinced that one's gone. We'll see. I'm glad I double checked that. It went in much better this time and sealed properly, and the result there is 140. That kind of suggests the head's actually okay. I'm getting a reasonable reading across the board. Okay, they're not all exactly the same, but they very rarely are, and remember, this is a, well, I'm going to say a high mileage engine because I have my suspicions that what this says on the clock is not how many miles it's done. But that compression test tells me what I thought was wrong probably isn't wrong, so there must be something else amiss. So let's talk about the other problem. This is where things start to get a bit confusing. This is the expansion bottle, which tells you roughly how much coolant you've got in, and it's quite often low. At the moment it's a bit lower than I would like, and what's very confusing is the coolant in there, if you'll excuse the grubbiness of the bottle, is actually quite clean. Now the last time I had this out, that coolant went kind of sludgy brown coloured. So how has that cleared up? The other issue is when the engine is cold, I was getting bubbles in here, which I ascribe to a head gasket issue. Now, the compression readings I'm getting suggest that the head gasket doesn't actually have an issue, so why are there bubbles coming out of there? Is there an airlock somewhere? Is that what's happened? Is it being trapped in the heater matrix and it's just flushed some gunge through? I don't know. I'm going to start the car, see if it blows the bubbles, and then I'll tell you the other weird thing it does. I'm still quite confused by this. So, I'd noticed the oil consumption was up, about 1 litre in 400 miles. That's a lot in my estimation. It's always used a fair bit of oil, particularly on the motorway, but a litre in 400 miles is more than usual. Maybe things have just settled, it hasn't consumed it, it's just got round all the system since the last head rebuild. I don't know. The other strange thing is, the other day I noticed there were bubbles in the expansion bottle. If you revved it, there were more bubbles. And this was when it was cold. I was doing my regular checks. Took it out on a test run just to find out what was going on. It was still making bubbles when I stopped. And then by the time I got home and it was all warm, no more bubbles. Today, from cold, no bubbles at all. Now bear in mind, for about 400 miles, I've had zero issues. I've retorqued the head bolts before the bubble situation, and everything came back good. And as I've seen today, the compression test is reasonable. It's not great, but it's reasonable. I have no idea what's amiss. I still want to get this engine rebuilt. It does have some underlying issues in there somewhere that I've never been able to pin down, and it wouldn't hurt. The only trouble there is it seems to be quite an expensive job to get done, but it would be worth it. All I can really do for now is use the car, do my weekly checks as usual, keep an eye on it, and hope it doesn't do it again. Cars are weird. They're really weird. When I got these emergency ones done, when I had the puncture, I had to stop in at a tyre place and get them done. Let me show you why I hate having my wheels put on at tyre places. This is far too tight. Yeah. The handbrake's fully on, but I'm still moving the car. I'm having to use that much force, I'm overcoming the handbrake. if you have to use a breaker bar to undo your wheel nuts, they're too tight. This is why I always take separates in when I can. Can't be doing with that nonsense. Other side's going to be just the same. This isn't a trick of the camera. The bar really does bend as much as you see it does. Now I can actually put the new ones on. What a chore.